So we've seen how to create PHP islands inside of our HTML from pretty much the beginning of the class, but you can also use the header command and content type in order to create PHP islands inside of JavaScript or inside of CSS. So instead of just having a CSS style here and putting a PHP island inside of it, I can actually create a CSS file. And I'm going to do something a little sneaky here. So I'm going to create this as a PHP file. But for the name, I'm going to make the name be week6.css.php. So I'm using both a .css extension and a .php extension. And when I do that, PHP Storm is smart enough to know that this is going to be a file that has both CSS and PHP in here. So it's going to do the right thing with the syntax highlighting and so on. And let me close off this top PHP island, and I'm going to start typing some style information. So in this hello page, I'm outputting the fruits array inside of a pre-tag. And so I'm going to set some style properties for that pre-tag. Let's just go ahead and say all pre-tags are going to have a text color red. And then I'm going to include that style sheet inside of my hello.php like so. So this is link rel equals style sheet. Type is text CSS. And href is week6.php.css.php. Okay. So let's go ahead and hit reload and see what happens. Nothing. So I didn't get any change at all. And if I right click here and say inspect element, failed to load resource, because I used the wrong path. So let's go ahead and change this to includes/week6.css.php and now hit reload. And I didn't get the error, but I still didn't get my style. And the reason that I'm not getting my style is because the browser doesn't know that this is a style sheet. Resource interpreted as style sheet, but transferred with MIME type text/HTML. So what we need to do is change the content type here so that it's not text HTML anymore. Make it be text CSS. So the PHP island needs to have a header command, content type text/CSS, and now when I reload, it worked. Right? So using the header command to tell the browser that I'm loading a style sheet, it ignores this extension, the extension for week6.css.php. It doesn't use the extension at all. It uses the content type that I supplied in this header, and everything works fine. So this may seem like a lot of work, but there's an advantage here, which is that since I'm inside of a PHP file, I can create PHP islands. So for example, let's go ahead and in my constants, I'm going to add a constant for pre-color, and I'm going to make that be red. And then in my week6 CSS, I'm going to require once constants.php. And this time I don't need includes because this thing here is loading that thing there, and they're both in the same folder. But now that I've done that, I can put a PHP island in here that echoes my pre-color. And let's go ahead and reload. And it still works. As far as the style sheet is concerned, I'm just putting red here. So let's go ahead and right click and view page source and then click on this includes. So this is what the browser is seeing for the style sheet. But now instead of modifying the style sheet, I can just change the constant. And it works fine. So this can be a value that I have defined as a constant, or it can be a piece of PHP code that changes depending on the value of some expression or whatever I want. It can also be a number that gets calculated if I'm specifying width or height and so on. Anything that I can do in PHP, I can now do in my style sheet. I can do the same thing for JavaScript as well. So for example, I can create a new PHP file called week6.js.php. And then I'm going to go ahead and start this thing with header, content type, text / JavaScript. So now I have a JavaScript file I can put PHP islands in. So let's go ahead and create a simple example. If you don't know JavaScript, that's okay. We're going to keep it simple, but I'm going to go ahead and put a div box in here, and I'm going to put an ID on that called myDiv. Leave it empty. And then I'm also going to include my JavaScript. So weeks, so that's in includes week6.js.php, and then I'm going to add to the body tag an onload call to init. So this is going to call an init function when the page is loaded, and then I'm going to define my init function inside of here. So function init, and what this is going to do is it's going to find that div box, and then it's going to set the contents to the value of a PHP constant, hello string. Now this is just going to put out the words hello string without any quotes around it, so I need to add quotes for JavaScript. And then a semicolon to close off the statement. But when this code gets run, when the page loads, it should show my hello string constant in a div box at the bottom. So let's go ahead and reload and view page source. My div. Take a look at, oh, so I have an error here because I forgot to include my constants. So require once. And then once again, I'm loading constants from the same folder, so I just need to say constants.php and reload. Great. So this is what the JavaScript function looks like after the PHP island's been evaluated. And this is what I get. So hello world. So my JavaScript is accessing a constant value that I declared inside of here, and I can change it in my PHP. And once again, this can be a piece of PHP code here. I can put anything that I want inside of this PHP island so that basically PHP is passing values to JavaScript. So one thing that's really handy is you'll often see something like this, var my string equal, and then I have a PHP island there, and then I set inner text to my string. So this is a JavaScript variable whose value has been initialized with the value of a PHP variable. So we'll be seeing this more in the walkthrough for Lab 5.